Hello everybody, welcome back to News for Normies. If you have a normie in your life who needs to hear some news and not from the corporate media industrial complex, share this video with them and let me know what you think afterwards down in the comments below. So, this week, obviously, the big news was that the presidential debate happened between Biden and Trump, and I will be getting into that later on in this video. However, there was some other news that I heard about this week that got overshadowed by the debate that I think are important to talk about too. So, starting with that, Julian Assange was freed. If you don't know who he is, he's the founder of WikiLeaks, and he kind of got into some trouble back, I think it was late Bush administration, early Obama administration, for leaking military intelligence and stuff. So he was finally freed from prison overseas, actually. The whole thing is a huge mess. So a lot of people look at him as a hero because he kind of basically, broke a story that said that we didn't need to be in the Middle East and that it was going to be, a wild ride the whole time. And it was pretty much pointless. So, personally, I think what he did was good, but it didn't really stop much, I don't think. So, I'm just glad that he's a free man now. I heard this one on the Jimmy Dore show this past week, and apparently the state of Idaho is ordering farmers to shut off water to their crops because of prospective mineral mining in the state in the near future. Now, obviously, when farmers are told they cannot tend to their crops, that causes some concerns about potential food shortages in the future, to which I would say that's a very big concern. But also, I've talked about before how we need to have manufacturing capabilities again here, and you got to start with the raw materials to make stuff. So this is a tricky one. This is a real tricky one. But the state of Idaho will impose a $300 per acre fine to farmers who refuse to comply with this order, which I think is a bunch of BS. We got to have food. And, I don't see how it makes any sense for a country of ours that's as big as ours to need to import food from other countries. I don't see it. I mean, obviously, what we would consider exotic stuff, traditionally Asian stuff, or Eastern European stuff, I guess, maybe, but I don't know, to just feed the people here. We can grow wheat, we can grow corn, we can grow livestock to slaughter for meat, cattle, pigs, goats, whatever. We have the capabilities here. So I don't understand why we're importing food from other countries. Let's see. I think I'll talk about that in a little bit. So it has been recently reported that the FBI down in Florida, they admitted to staging the classified documents that they took from Donald Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago. This goes to show that the deep state, aka the people that are hold power behind the president's back, were actively trying to work against him. This is different than Biden having classified documents because, A, the FBI staged the documents here at Mar-a-Lago, whereas Biden took classified documents after he was vice president and just had them locked away in his garage at his personal residence with, not a lot of security on that, basically. So it just goes to show, again, the two-tiered justice system in this country. If you are for the Democrat Party, you can do no wrong. If you are Republican and question the authority, then everything you do is wrong. Um, Again, the president has the power to declassify documents as he sees fit. The vice president does not. And at the time, Joe Biden was only vice president for the Obama administration. Um, so, yeah, that's obviously a two-tier justice system. Um, Speaking of Joseph R. Biden, he is hell-bent on poking the Russian bear because he is now going to send private military contractors to Ukraine after Ukraine hit targets in Crimea. Why we are continuing to try to provoke war with Russia, I have no idea. They are not a threat to us. They are not a threat to democracy. They can barely whip themselves out of a wet paper bag. So why we are continuing to do this, I have no idea. So there was some big cases that were ruled on by the Supreme Court this week. Erlanger v. United States and Murphy versus Missouri. The second case had to do with social media platforms having preferential treatment toward certain political biases than others, and social media companies censoring people because of, let's be honest, their political bent. If you were, again, right-leaning and tried to post anything on these platforms, you got censored. And if you were just all in for the COVID machine, you were praised and boosted. People were censored on social media for things like criticism of the COVID protocols, election issues in 2020, things like this. And, you know, I can hear the liberal argument now, oh, well, people like Ben Shapiro still have a platform. Yeah, it's because the Daily Wire works in tandem with these groups, but people like Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, Jimmy Dore, these people who were critical of the COVID protocols and like COVID mandates, like the shots, they were all censored. Hell, even Ron DeSantis had the top doctors from like Harvard, Yale, and Oxford universities to do like a town hall meeting to discuss how the state of Florida should go about handling COVID, and he was removed from Facebook and YouTube. That video was taken down because it was cited as misinformation. So to claim that there was no standing for social media companies censoring people is complete BS. Also, apparently the Supreme Court never looked into the Twitter files after Elon Musk bought Twitter, or listened to Mark Zuckerberg on the biggest podcast ever, Joe Rogan Experience, when he flat out admitted that the FBI pressured Facebook to take down the Hunter Biden laptop story because they claimed it was Russian disinformation. So, if you don't see that there are people that are really pulling the strings behind the scenes at this point, then you are completely blind. And I hope Jesus comes and heals you of your blindness, because I don't know what else to tell you at this point. So there is a funny, well, I don't want to say it's funny, but it's kind of an ironic video going around on TikTok right now. It's a viral video. This guy was, in short, talking about how grocery prices are stupid expensive nowadays. And this is an issue that literally affects every single person, because every single person has to eat. So in this video, this guy pulls up his Walmart app, and just out of curiosity, he goes to the reorder button on the app to see what he had ordered like 2, 3, 4 years ago. And it shows you what the cost of all that stuff was back then, which was like $120 from what he said, for like a month worth of groceries for one dude, $120. He clicks the reorder button, and for the same items now would have cost him over $400. So anybody that is trying to say that Biden's economy is working is either blind, stupid, or a paid shill. Because I don't understand how you can make sense of any of this. We all know that things are worse off now than with the Trump administration. So, yeah, this directly refutes Biden's claims that the economy was doing well, which he claimed during that debate. So I'm almost there to debate stuff. If you don't follow independent news outlets, and I say that loosely because they are really the mainstream at this point, but anyway, if you don't follow independent news outlets such as Timcast IRL, Louder with Crowder, or Breaking Points, they were basically threatened by CNN. Those three and more, by the way, they were basically threatened by CNN that if they were to live stream the debate, that they would have strikes against them on platforms like YouTube. And they are doing this because CNN has not been doing well for a long time, actually, and they are desperate to remain relevant and remain in operation. That's all this was. However, this didn't go well for them, though, because these same platforms, ultimately live streamed the debate and did live fact-checking of them. And Biden was wrong on almost every single thing. So I don't know if his brain is like completely mush at this point or what, but he was not good on that debate stage. So, as I said up top at the top of the video, I'm going to give my thoughts on the debate. Now, I listened to this 3 times while I was at work on Friday from 3 different audio podcasts. I will be very upfront with this, I did not watch the debate at all, but I listened to the audio 3 times. Once from Drinkin' Bros podcast when they did their live stream from Thursday night, Timcast IRL, and Louder with Crowder. So, I tried to take as good of notes as I could on my phone while I was listening to these debates, and I'm just going to start reading them off from top to bottom. So, I noticed right at the start, Biden's voice was bad. Like, it was very bad. And it continued through the entire debate if you didn't watch it. His voice was sounded very dry and hoarse, and he just sounded weak. Like, he sounded very bad. And this was a common thing throughout the whole debate, but he kept blaming Trump for, a bad economy and a bad situation and this and that, when Trump left office and he had to clean up the mess before him. And it's very reminiscent of Obama with his criticisms of George W. Bush. And it just goes to show, again, that, the DNC as a whole just has this mindset that they can do no wrong and that they are morally righteous in everything they do. So keep that in mind when you're voting next time on who points blame more at the other party and who's actually trying to get stuff done. Spoiler alert, Republicans don't like to get much done either because solved problems don't get out the vote. Okay, moving on back to the debate. Biden claimed that there were no military casualties from U.S. service members during his administration, but he must have forgotten about the 13 Americans that were killed at Abbey Gate during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. If I remember correctly, 10 or 11 of these people were enlisted in the Marine Corps. I think one was Army and one was National Guard. I can't remember. Regardless, they were all enlisted in the U.S. military, and 13 people died because of military incompetence that day at Abbey Gate. Long story short, there was a suicide bomber that clacked off at this gate, killed 13 people, but he was known as a terrorist in the area, And our military had eyes on him before he did that and could have taken him out beforehand, but they were told no. So incompetence is going from the top all the way to the bottom at this point. Abortion. Very hot button topic in politics these days. We all know that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And if you ask people on the right, which I agree with this, it returned the issue back to the individual states. That is exactly what the 9th and 10th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution state. And if you're not familiar with those, please go read them. But to sum it up, anything that is not specifically granted as a power to the federal government is automatically delegated back to the individual states. I don't see how this is a controversial viewpoint. In fact, it's the right move because, in a state of, here in Ohio, we have about 10 million people. You have a 1 in 10 million vote as opposed to on the national level, you have like a 1 in 300 million vote. So, again, right call. Abortion, I don't exactly like it, but sending it back to the states, right call. I love the fact that Biden keeps saying that Putin is a war criminal, but Biden must either not know or not care that Ukraine is using explosive drones against Russian troops that are trying to surrender on the battlefield. This is a direct war crime that the Biden regime continues to fund. And I'm sure that I'll see these on Instagram now that I'm talking about it, but there are plenty of videos going around of Ukrainian drones blowing up Russian troops that are trying to surrender. Again, this is a war crime, okay? And the U.S. federal government is complicit with it. Talking more war stuff here, Biden patted himself on the back for saying that he refused to give 2,000-pound bombs to Israel because, quote, they don't work well in populated areas, end quote. Yet he stayed real quiet about giving cluster bombs to Ukraine, which are illegal in the terms of war and can cause mass casualties against not just enemy combatants, but civilians alike. So again, still complicit in war crimes. No surprise, the moderators asked Trump about January 6th, and he was correct to point out that there was tons of evidence deleted by the Congressional Committee of January 6th, or whatever stupid thing they're calling it. But he was correct in pointing out that they deleted tons and tons of evidence that would have basically shown that a lot of people were innocent on the J6 protest, because a lot of people were let into the building by police. Some even like taken around the building by police and almost a guided tour. But they were still charged with like trespassing and way harsher charges than they should have been. Now, there were some people on video that were seen smashing windows and breaking down doors and stuff. And yeah, those people should be charged accordingly. Destruction of property, stuff like that. But anybody else that was let in by police, they should be free to go. I didn't really like Trump's answer on climate change. He should have pointed out how these so-called experts have been wrong every single time for the last 50 years. Because these experts have claimed that the Earth was getting too cold and we need to warm it up, and then the Earth is getting too warm and we need to cool it down. We were going to run out of oil by 1990. That didn't happen. Greenhouse gases were going to kill us all. It didn't happen. They talked a little bit about like ocean levels in the debate. He should have pointed out that, these experts claimed that the ocean levels were going to rise and completely swallow Florida and all this stuff. But yet, the ocean levels haven't risen. wealthy people, wealthy individuals, and hotel chains alike still have tons of hotels right on beaches in Florida, all around the coasts. And ever since the wildfire out in Hawaii, people like Oprah and Mark Zuckerberg have been buying large swaths of land to do God knows what with. So, the fact that this stuff is happening, but people still believe the climate change BS, is mind-boggling to me. Now, I will applaud him for mentioning that countries like China and India are major polluters of the world, and they need to be held accountable for that. We are crippling ourselves by trying to enact all of these green policies here in the States. Oh boy, this one here just had me completely in shock. Biden claimed that he enacted policies that have benefited black people across the United States in just the 4 years that he's been in office, as president of the United States. Let me clarify that. However, tons of videos coming from inner cities like New York and Chicago of residents there are directly refuting that claim, because there are plenty of videos of black residents from the inner cities like this who are sick of the open border policy that Biden has enacted since day one, that have completely ruined the inner cities of America. I mean, how many times does somebody need to be raped and beaten and killed by an illegal alien before it's just acknowledged that this is a problem that Biden created? And that's what these videos have done. They're directly calling him out to seal the border and end this crap. Also, it's funny to me how Biden claims to be this champion of African Americans when he's been on video before using hard racial slurs about black people. That I'm not going to repeat his exact words here because it's vile. He opposed integration of public schools back in the day, which, if we go back in time just like 4 years ago, Kamala Harris called him out for that on the 2020 presidential debate campaign. And then she ended up his VP. Weird. During that time, Biden stated that he, quote, didn't want his kids to be in a racial jungle, end quote. And while he was still a senator in the 90s, he was a major supporter of the 90s crime bill that put more black people in jail than before. So, for Biden to claim that he is this champion for African Americans in this country is an outright lie. Like, this man has done nothing but lie his way to the top, and it is infuriating. So, please, if you are an African American watching this, if you're a black man or black woman in America watching this right now, please look this stuff up. I believe that you are smarter than what Biden believes you are, and he is not your ally. He's not. He is absolutely not. And I would argue that the DNC as a whole is not your ally either. And finally, the last note that I had on here, Biden claimed that he was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, but after the debate, they came out and made a post, I think on Twitter, denouncing Biden and straight up saying that they never have and never will endorse President Biden for anything. So, again, like I said before, either his brain is completely mush or he's intentionally lying his ass off all the way through. I would probably say that there's some sort of mix between that, because he, back in the 80s when he first ran for president, had to drop out because he straight up plagiarized a politician from Britain in one of his speeches. So, final thoughts from the debate. Toward the end, both Trump and Biden sounded like petulant children. claiming that they were the better or the better president, and that the other guy was really worse. So it just seemed like two elementary school kids just going like, "No, he's really worse. No, he's really worse." So I would just say that most people can recognize that Biden has done a piss poor job in office, and that Trump was way better. I mean, like I said before, the guy with the TikTok video and the groceries and stuff, everybody's feeling the Bidenomics that they like to tout. So if you want your grocery bill to go down in the future and your utility bill to go down in your house in the future, you might want to vote for Trump again. And if you didn't vote for him the first two times, I highly suggest you do that too. I thought that the muted mics between answers would hurt Trump during this debate, but I actually think they helped, because Trump actually remained pretty calm and collected for most of the debate and just straight up pointed out Biden's failures. Whether it was the economy, immigration, foreign policy, whatever, he was just straight up and said, look, these things have fallen apart since he's been in office, and it wouldn't have happened under my administration. Simple as that. Stayed calm, cool, and collected. I like the fact that he called Biden out to his face, because nobody has done that. Nobody has called him out to his face. And it was funny because at one point, Biden started getting flustered and angry, and which didn't help him at all. But Donald Trump was not cut off by the moderators one time during this debate. And if I remember right, Biden was cut off like 2 or 3 times mid-sentence, because they had a time limit for each candidate to answer. So that definitely made Biden look weak, and he looked bad, even though he's already done a fine job of doing that to himself up to this point anyway. And lastly, I stayed off Twitter the entire night. I was out at dinner with some buddies, because we get together on Thursday nights. But it was funny to hear about liberals' reactions after the debate. They are now on the same bandwagon as most people on the right, saying that Biden needs to be out of there, because he just looked bad. I find it hilarious that now liberals are running around with their hair on fire trying to figure out what they're going to do, when we've been saying this since before he even ran for president this time, that he is not up to task for this. So, personally, I hope they keep him in. That way Trump has just a clear shot at victory for 2024. But we'll see what happens. I mean, the dude could croak at any moment, because he's old as dirt and has vascular dementia. So, all right, I've been talking for almost 30 minutes now. I am going to get off of here, go get a drink of water because I'm a little thirsty. And I will catch y'all next week with another episode of News for Normies. So, if you like this, let me know. Share it with somebody that needs to know this. And get out and register to vote. I know I talked about it last time. VoteForAmerica.org. You can register there if you're not registered. Do it and go vote to get this country back on track. So, with that being said, I'll catch y'all next time.